Profap one for roaming win. Let's continue. Masturbation kills. I told you it's going to make a lot of people mad. But you know what? Thank you for joining me and continuing on. We have to tell the truth because we want you to enjoy life and have it more abundantly through Jesus Christ. And you have to understand that not everything is just do whatever you want to do. If you want to be a successful business person, you need to follow specific rules. And we want you to be able to control your body. So, fapping in the law of diminishing returns. Masturbation, law of diminishing returns. Diminishing returns is, as with all sins, addictions, etc., this is used for addiction. This is how they say, because, because they're after the high and after they get that first initial high, it doesn't come as, so let's just read it. Each subsequent high is not as good as the person not as good as the first one. Which is why some people end up masturbating for hours. I'm just going to read this and experiment with all sorts of evil, wicked things and find themselves in a dark level of pornography that they never dreamed themselves in. This is part of what we were talking about earlier, how people go beyond. Yes, first of all, law of diminishing returns, just like marijuana, cocaine, they take it the first time. Oh, that's awesome. And they try to get back up to it, but they never actually get back up to it. Which is why, if it's not proper, see, a man and a wife having sex in marriage, it's wonderful and beautiful, and there's no lust pushing it. Because when lust pushes it, which lust is conceived, bring forth sin, when it's finished, bring forth death. That's why you have a lot of people who aren't married, or if sex is perverted in their marriage, they will actually have sex way beyond. They can hurt themselves. Why? Because they're trying to achieve something that they're trying to achieve something that it's not possible to achieve with masturbation. A husband and wife who love each other with the love of God and living as they're supposed to with each other according to knowledge, when they have sex, is beautiful and wonderful, and they don't have to come up with stuff to make it more and more exciting. That's why people use violence. The Bible says abusing themselves with mankind. They'll use violence because they're trying to keep this high, this lust going. So they got to do it in public. They got to do something to keep themselves aroused. Why? Because it's not real. It's superficial. And since it's only in the physical realm, they try to move it into the mental realm. Of course, there is a spiritual level of uncleanness, which most people we thank God, most people don't get into. But what you deal with is that, that's partially where sex becomes part of a religion. And in the Corinth, back then, in the book of Corinthians, which has 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and 2 Corinthians chapter 6, it talks about marrying people who aren't saved and marrying and dealing with people. You can't just get with people. It talks about the fornication of the Bible. It talks about fornication in 1 and 2 Corinthians chapter 6 of both of them, because having sex was part of their religion. And there's Satanism, Wiccan, witches. Part of that religion is sex. And they say love is sex. God is love and God is sex. He's not. So so what happens is but they're using these things to bring themselves, and they're trying to achieve something, but they can't because they're not doing it properly. So when someone ends up, this is what masturbation is. That's why they're doing it constantly. Well, why are you doing it every other day? Why are you doing it once a week? Why are you doing this thing every day? See, wait a second. Why are you doing it every day? I don't think people even stop and think to themselves, why are they doing it every day? I mean, you can't say because I love my wife and we enjoy each other. Yes, God has made humans bodies so that man and woman attracted to each other, that husband and wife can have sex and pleasure themselves together, and it consummates the relationship, koinonia, intimate, But if you stop and think about, why are you doing it? Why are you masturbating every day? See, if you stop and think about it, this is why we have the law of diminishing returns. Why do you watch football? Well, I like football. Well, football is not killing you unless you go too far. If you go too far with football and you neglect your work, you neglect your family, you neglect your health, you go into a drinking binge every time your team loses, you need to stop messing around with football until you get that fixed. So this is why this law, diminishing returns where it just gets lower and lower and lower and it's just not fun anymore. And so now they got to find out, just like, they got to find out something to stay more exciting. That's how life without God is. You got to keep doing stuff more and more exciting. You got to keep traveling. You got to keep trying new foods because your life is not secure in God, which is what he wants it to be. You want to be pure and secure. So, but this is why with the law of diminishing returns, people end up masturbating for hours. This is not a joke. It actually happens in the world. It actually ends up masturbating for hours and they start coming up with things. I heard a song one time. It was just like every part of the body was used. They were aroused at virtually every part of the body. And it didn't matter. The women and men were a sodomy, oral sex. It was like, because that's not enough anymore. Now you got to do it while you're driving down the street. Now you got to do it in public. Now you got to, think about it. Let's do it in the school bathroom. I mean, you got to do something. And that lust is pushing them. So I mean, think about it. It's got that exciting thing that the devil's tempting them with. So it's got that added thing, which is why a lot of marriages dissolve after that because if it's based off lust. And it moves people to a dark level of pornography. There's actually pornographic things of rape, and people end up doing that. And then the kid's like, "Oh, that's not sick." And the next thing you know, 20 years later, it isn't sick anymore because before he's not. And it throws all sexual immorality together. You got a man, you got four people, and you got a man and a woman. They're having sex. Then you got a man and two women, and the women start kissing each other. That's uncleanness. And then the men start having sex with each other. Then next, everyone's just doing all sorts of stuff because it just keeps going forward, and it goes forward because since it's not grounded in life and in the Word of God, you just go wild with it. And that's why people end up with pornography, where they end up, there's murder and death. Bible says sin when it's finished brings forth death. That's why a lot of pornography ends up with the person's raping the person or killing the person, even pornographic art. There is soft porn, and a lot of singers are guilty of it because they're taking pictures with their clothes off and revealing stuff. And they're using lust to sell music. But that's why there's actual things now where the people they draw murder. People dying. Naked people dying. You probably didn't even know about that, but that's basically what it is. And people actually, that's how they do it because they never dreamed that they would end up that far into it. Just like the first person who takes a sip at a frat party does not know that 20 years later he might be at the bottom of a bottle, quote unquote, with his marriage destroyed. Because now he's drinking constantly. Because now his friends who are egging him on, yeah, buddy, choke, they're no longer there. And now he's at the bottom. He's lost his job. He's about to lose his wife, and his kids don't like him because of the way he carries on. See, just like the pot, pot. Marijuana is a gateway drug to cocaine, or light beer leads to hard liquor, whiskey. You never hear of a pure husband or wife having sex too much. You never hear of a husband and wife who are doing right, who are addicted to sex. Why? This is because lust is not present. They're not trying to define themselves nor sustain their relationship with unmarital intercourse or sexual immorality. See, since it's not correct and masturbation doesn't help you and fapping isn't useful, you have to keep doing it to make it more and more exciting. If you have to keep doing something to make it more and more exciting, then something is probably wrong. People go to football games and they enjoy the football game. They enjoy sports no matter. I have a friend, he'll watch sports. He doesn't care what year the game is. He just likes watching sports. But imagine if someone, you can almost not even imagine it because watching sports isn't evil. But let's see if somebody is going too far with it and is like trying to push the envelope, well, you can't even do that I guess you could with sports. But just like violence and stuff, now you can go beat up people. So you started beating up each other, for fun. Now you're really beating up each other and you got to keep getting the high. So now you go beat up somebody who's a total stranger. And that's what it is. Now the ultimate issue is taking someone's virginity, raping somebody. That's basically how it falls in. Why? Because you're pleasuring yourself and you got to keep going. You got to keep going because after a while, it's not going to be cool. And that's why a lot of people, I've seen it on the internet, social media, a lot of people, it's gross to look at a picture of a naked boys, let's say a young boy. It's gross to look at a picture of a man having sex with a woman. But then after about 10 years, the kid's enjoying it. The next thing you know, he's looking at two women having sex. He thinks that's a hot. Then he's looking at two men having sex. then he's just confused and now he's watching anything. See, that's the problem because it just keeps going forward. That is the law of diminishing returns, and it's never as cool as the second time. And it's never as cool as the third time. And it keeps going down and down and down and down. In the end, you're just miserable. In the end, you got to go home. In the end, it's over. The parade's over. The party's over. You got to go home. You got to clean up. I remember a Vine video where they were saying, toss it up, toss it up. I don't know who these people are. It was awesome. And then the very next clip, they were cleaning up the trash. That's what it is. But when you have sex with your wife as ordained by God, you're not cleaning up the trash after the party. Live vous be.